Teacher. I'm back with another lesson on Canada's history. What is history? History is what happened in the past, like what happened yesterday or what happened last year in 2019. It's everything that happened before. So we're going to talk about how Canada became Canada. Do you remember this? Do you remember hello and bonjour in the video for day 2? I told you that Canada has 2 languages. Hello in English and bonjour in French. But this wasn't always like this. This was Canada before the English and the French came to Canada. The English are people from England and the French are people from France. So, here is a map of all the countries. And here is France, and here is England. And they came across the water to Canada. But before they came to Canada, there were Indigenous people there already. There were the Inuit and the First Nations, and they lived in Canada before. Also, there's the Métis, but we will talk about them in the next video about Canada's people. Indigenous means first, okay? So, the Indigenous people, they hunted animals, so they were looking for animals and they had to kill the animals for food and for clothes. The Indigenous people also had to fish for food, and they had to teach the English and the French how to survive in the freezing cold winter. Do you remember I told you that Canada's winter is very, very, very cold? So they had to teach them how to live in the winter. But why did people from England and France come to Canada? Well, there were explorers. Explorers are people who like to look for land, so they travel to many different places to look for land or for information or for resources. When I say resources, maybe they were looking for gold or silver. They'd make, I hear there's gold in that place, so I'm going to go there. Or there's silver in that place, so I'm going to go there. So that's what many people used to do and travel all over the water. Let's talk about 3 explorers that came to Canada. Explorer number 1, Leif Erikson. He lived 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago. And he traveled from up here and came all the way to this part of Canada. And he was the first person to come from this part of the world to this part of the world where Canada is. Explorer number 2, John Cabot. He came to the same place 500 years later. He came from England and he went on his boat and he traveled across the water to this part of Canada, and he said, "This is for England." So he took it. And then number 3, explorer number 3, his name is Jacques Cartier. That is a French name. And he came a few years later. And he came from France. And he traveled to this part of Canada. And then, after Jacques Cartier, many more people from France came to live here. This is why this part of Canada, they speak French. There used to be many people who are indigenous. Do you remember the indigenous people, the Inuit and the First Nations, that used to live all over this land? But now there's less and less people because their land was taken by England and by France, which is over here, England and France. The last thing I want to show you is how Canada changed. So in the first video about Canada, in day 2, I told you that July 1st is Canada's birthday. We celebrate Canada Day. And this is what Canada looks like today. But many years ago, this was Canada. Just this little part. But let's watch Canada change and Canada get bigger. Okay? Do you see? It got bigger with all the yellow parts, but still this part and this part and this part is not Canada yet. Now, this part is in Canada. Do you see the colors changing? And this part now is getting bigger. And this part now is part of Canada. And now this part belongs to Canada. This was the first part that was found that is in Canada, but it was the last part to become part of Canada. And now this is Canada today. So this is all I have for you today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning about Canada's history, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.